I heard recording in progress, so
Okay,
that's
well, I
cool.
will first introduce Howard. This is the Hard Science Fiction Zoomers group, which has its own um, YouTube channel called the Tucson Hard Science Fiction Group channel. And this is my old friend, Howard Allen, who has worked in many parts of theater. He is a well-respected person of the theatrical community, both here in Tucson, in California, at the Eugene O'Neill festivals up in, I'm spacing out, Minnesota. Is that where they
Oh
are?
no, 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 no. That the O'Neill's off in Massachusetts.
In
But yeah.
Massachusetts. And you have many other credits, which I will say if you want
Oh, you don't have to go through all of the credits
to.
there.
Okay, I
That's
won't go through all of Howard's credits. Let's just
all
say he's
right.
a beloved theater of all parts person.
Can
And yes,
can everybody see me? Can I hear everybody?
that's good to know.
Could everybody say if they hear?
I hear, see,
Hear and
don't
see. Karen
feel, but
Liptax hears and sees. All
I
right.
hear and see you.
yeah.
If they're not
Melissa
hearing,
Tolliver.
won't
All
hear.
right,
Yeah,
Melissa, hi.
I
And then,
How, Howard, if they're not hearing, how will they hear that question? But we won't get too logical here.
I can
well,
hear
we'll,
you too.
all right.
Okay.
Starlet Swan. All right. Um, well, my background is is my wife's garden. This is iris plants. So if everybody's seeing the speaker uh, talk there, mostly what I wanted to start with was more basic kinds of things, and the most basic thing is the idea of story. And I think that I I think that most of you are aware of, just talking about story as story, but I wanted you to think about the story today, starting with RUR. Everybody in this group, right, knows about your RUR project?
I don't think so, Howard, because some of them are brand new, like you. And do you want me to say a few words? Just
No, no, that's all right.
okay.
The Carol Chapek. Am I saying his last name right? Chapek?
Karel Čapek.
Karel Čapek. All right. Čapek's play, RUR, is a good way for us to start talking about story. And if you all have seen or heard about it, what the basic things I want to tell you about story is that story has dramatic action, and it's a great way to talk about um, story with other people. I don't see why my camera is being very strange. I don't. All right. Um,
Do you need
and and the best way to get into that is to just talk about what how a best way to define story is more than plot, more than just what happens in story, is to talk about what's underneath that. And what's underneath that can be called dramatic action. Other people have different names for it. But what you're looking for in that is a POV, point of view character, that's kind of central to the story. And in are you is everybody here familiar with this the setup you guys already have for?
no, Howard. That's why I said I would say a few words, if you'll allow me, please.
Well, yeah, okay, we're
Just let me summarize it in a couple sentences, okay?
all
RUR
right.
is the play that introduced the word robot to the world's languages. No one knew what a robot was. It comes from a Czech word that means forced labor or serf labor. Karl Čapek created this as a cautionary play. They hardly had the word science fiction in those days, but it's very prescient and it foretold much that went on later in AI and robotics. And so it's a very historic play. And that's all I need to say.
Oh, okay. Um, inside his play, we meet the people who run the factory where they're making the robots. And you all need to be aware that in terms of science fiction, we're going to be talking about science and fiction and how they fit together and how they don't always fit together that easily. And anybody who has a question, right, they can just hit the raise their hand button or something, and we can.
Under reactions, it will say raise hand. There's a little reactions button at the bottom.
Yeah, react. If you react,
You
and
have it closer
and we
if you can hear.
No, that's okay.
that's good. I'm hearing Ewan. All right, all right. So if you hit react at any time, we'll try and make sure that I'm being clear about what we're already talking about. I think that I just can't believe how my camera is. Wait a minute. There we go. There we go. I'm moving my whole computer so that I'm sort of in the light here. And y'all can see me. In that particular story, there's a woman named Helen who shows up at this factory on this island, and she's there to see what they're doing. We find out later that she's there because she's part of a what are they giving her name? A humanity group there.
League of Humanity.
What is it? League?
League of Humanity.
Yeah, League of Humanity. And she's there to look at the robots that they're already making. However, in science fiction terms, if we compare this with, say, what's another good movie for you all to know about? If we look at The Day the Earth Stood Still, famous old movie where you have Klaatu and he in 1951, and he shows up and he has a robot with him and named Gort. I think even Elon Musk or somebody's using the name of the robot there anyway lately. But that's a very mechanical looking thing. And in Capek's play, they are actually androids, which you all have seen if you've seen Star Trek, or movies where sci-fi movies where you can't even tell who the androids are and who the humans are. The Harrison Ford movie, Blade Runner, where he's looking for replicants who are hiding in the human population, and they're difficult to find, and it's dangerous for him to find them in that particular movie. But in RUR, which is way ahead of its time in a whole bunch of ways, the robots are actually made out of organic material. So they're a version of flesh and blood, but they are manufactured. Okay, and this Helen woman is there to see what that's all about. In dramatic action terms, if she's going to be our POV character, we have her and a guy named Domain who sort of runs the factory and has been there forever. They're the two main characters. And it's important, if you talk about any story, that you look at who are we following? Who are the characters that we're following that pull us into the story? And in this case, it's Domain, and Helen. And what eventually happens in the second act of the play is that, which happens 10 years later, she's come because 10 years later she's back, and 10 years later the world is filled with these working robots. These androids, they're everywhere doing everything. They're all over the place. It should make you think of the way we're all worried about artificial intelligence right now, and what can it do and what can it take over. And And if they make robots with artificial intelligence, are they going to replace us? Well, in RUR, that is the question. Are they going to replace us? And she's worried about, she's there because they're so human-like that she doesn't want them destroyed or mistreated, right? And so she's trying to save them, but then in Act Two, off stage, the robots are starting to take over the world because these android creatures feel like they look pretty human anyway, and they're made of organic material, human-like materials, and so uh, they're having a revolution. And in fact, it's reached a point where they're killing off humans. And at the end of this of RUR, you actually have the robots have taken over the factory, and they've even killed Domin and Helen. They left one person, one human alive, who is in charge of just the manufacture. But then they realized that the guy in charge of manufacturing uh, didn't know the formulas, the biological formulas, which are the big secret, that they created the organic materials to create these android creatures. And so now the androids are running the factory, and they're worried that they can't recreate themselves, and they're looking for the formula, the biochemical formula that was created that we learned about in Act One, that Doman's father or uncle, I guess, had created. They're looking for that, and Helen had already destroyed it. Out in the audience, we're aware that she had burned all of the materials about the organic creation of these robots. So it's kind of a tragedy at the end for humans and android robots at the end of RUR. So in a dramatic action terms, what can you say if we're following Dobin as a POV character? We would say he's trying to save his factory and he wants to make it uh, even better, and he doesn't think that they're mistreating the robots, but of course they're not treating them as humans out in the world. And a competing POV character, Helen, is trying to save these robots initially because they're so human that she doesn't want them uh, to be destroyed. Okay, at the very end of Act Two of this, so the climax of this story, at the very end, we are seeing that one other actual human named Helen was saved, and a robot named Primus, and they have fallen in love with each other. And there's an indication at the end of this that they're the new Adam and Eve and going to start a whole new kind of creature on Earth. And I don't know if you would say that this dramatic action ends as positively, but there is this hope that there's this whole new kind of creature. So sort of Helen wins with that if they're going to be able to keep them both alive, and if this later female and Primus are going to make babies, although they don't talk about it. Uh, they are going to survive on some level. Um, Gloria, is it possible to ask people to turn on their faces so I can see their faces? Yeah, I see Karen and I see Stella, and it's great if I can, if you're listening, if you can turn on so that we can all see you as people. That's kind of nice.
It takes too much bandwidth, too much bandwidth.
Are we sure? Um,
My husband
I'm
Bob thinks it takes too much bandwidth.
I'm still seeing more faces being added, but
We're keeping ours turned off because of our bandwidth issues with our old computers. If people have newer computers, then
oh, okay.
that can endanger your connection, putting your face on and everything. So
Oh, endanger the connection. Oh, don't say that. No, we want to keep
say it.
everybody for heaven's sakes.
It
All
depends
right.
on
Um,
what version.
I can even see Starlet Swan, who her face is like above a pillow, or is I don't know what that is. Anyway, that's cool. And Melissa Tolliver, I see. Is that Melissa with the glasses? All right. Um, I like the idea of actually talking to people because I would teach writing for film and television back in the day, and so I like knowing knowing a little bit about who I'm talking to is nice. Um, uh, is John Ryder? Can he turn on John Ryder? Are you able to turn on your face? Don't worry about it if you can't. That's cool. I get
Yeah,
it.
he's there. He's there. It's the second. Well, he's the one with the white beard and white hair.
No.
He's in two spots. That's the problem.
Oh, he's in two.
Yeah,
Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
two tiles.
I'm going to look at the whole gallery now. All right, John Ryder, two top. Oh, I
yeah.
see John Ryder twice. Okay, John, I see you. Cool. Way cool. All right, because I want you all to even like wave at me if you have questions or whatever. But what I want you to start to think about is what makes a story a science fiction story. And that really gets interesting because you're trying to mix the science and the fiction. But you also have, in terms of the kinds of movies, especially that we see fantasy stories that might have supernatural elements in them. And a fantasy story with a supernatural element in it is often called science fiction by some outfits. I looked up what American Film Institute and what Steven Spielberg said were the 10 best science fiction movies. And they're not the same list, of course. But but among the ones that they list, there are some that that are easily described as almost 50-50, the science and the fiction. And that's so number one is 2001 A Space Odyssey. How many of you have seen that? Have you all seen 2001 Space Odyssey? Then you know the one that everything else can get measured against. That story has um, has us just as involved in how the technology works and the science works as much as in um, the story of the people in it, the characters, the point of view characters that we get involved with. And in fact, one of the one of the villainous characters in 2001 is the computer HAL, the HAL 9000 computer, who in a strange artificial intelligence way, which is which is what we're all worried about, decides that to save the mission, he has to take over. So that kind of conflict. So you want conflict in any story, and conflict is how you learn what's going on. The last thing you want, if you all are writing science fiction, prose or dramatic writing, you don't want to hurt. You don't want to suppress your conflict by having characters explain everything. If you get one thing from my lesson today, explaining is evil in storytelling. And the more you have a character stop and explain things to us, the less they're pulled into what's going on in the story. And that's because what I used to teach when I went to the LA Screenwriters Festivals was I would teach a class in subtext. And subtext, actors know all about this. Subtext is not what's being said, but it's really what is it's it's the part that's not being said that is in fact the story. what people are trying to get from each other, and it's maybe hidden, or or it's a secret or whatever. But in the conflict, like if if I'm gonna tell John Ryder right now, John, you need to smile bigger. This doesn't look good for all of us to have you looking so see, and you see he smiled. But the subtext of that is that Howard Allen is taking control of this group of people, and he's trying to get people to be a little happier, especially John. And so, see, he's now John is doing his own impersonation of RUR. That's lovely. He is the robot. That's lovely. Um, so what I want you all to realize when you're watching story, when you get pulled into a story, is because you're identifying with characters, but you're identifying with why you care about them. It's a why question. And why you care about them is what it is they are trying to do, what it is they're trying to get. And if they're just trying to save themselves, that's a powerful thing too. And there's a couple of in Act Two of RUR of Chapek's play. You have a couple of like Primus and a couple of these other robots who have their own subtext. There's things they want to do. And there's even a freaking love story between Primus and this human character. So that is on the way to a lot of science fiction that we have that we watch these days. If you saw, let's compare the science and fiction and a couple others. How many of you have seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind? You know, where they're landing and everything, that kind of deal. Um, you have the interaction between the aliens and the humans is not being done um, in dialogue per se, right? Um, and they even end up trying to communicate with each other with music. This whole business of communicating with aliens, whole science fiction movies have been created, and successful ones have happened about trying to communicate with the aliens before they destroy us. Even that 1951 one, which if I don't know if you can pick that, if you can stream that now, but it's outrageous because in 1951 we were all worried about the Cold War and the Russians and everything. And so when Klaatu lands on Earth and he's got this robot with him, everyone's first assumption is he's there to kill all of us and we can't, and shouldn't we start firing at them? Then you got movies like War of the Worlds, which gets called science fiction, and it's not really. It's just a battle. It might as well be a World War II movie. It's just aliens versus humans in big battle sequences. But if you get pulled in to a really good science fiction film, how many of you have seen Back to the Future? You've seen Back to the Future, where he gets in the DeLorean and goes back, and he ends up almost ruining the chance for his parents to get together and make him, when he goes back to the past. Now that is powerful science fiction because you have him and the crazy character who designs the DeLorean, and they have to work the science out in order for him to do the time travel. And that gets amazing, and that creates a lot of suspense for us in the audience. And that's what you want in a really good science fiction story is suspense, characters that we care about, and he has that going really good. Kopek has that going in RUR, even though uh, the language at the time and approach at the time was a little bit more superficial about subtext, and now you can have characters with interesting and deeply involved subtext stuff, and you can play with that a little bit. So Back to the Future, we end up caring tremendously about is he going to be able to get back, which is science, and fiction, is he going to be able to get his parents together so that he actually ends up getting born? If he ruins his chance for his parents to get together, he's going to disappear right on camera in front of us because he won't exist anymore. And that's really interesting right there. Um, which brings people into it. And that now the other thing, um, you got this current series. Do you guys stream things now? Do any of you stream the Andor series right now? The writing, you might want to stream Andor, even though it's a prequel to God, what is it? Prequel to Star Wars, is it? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yes, and Gilroy, the writer, brilliant, brilliant writer, and they've won Emmy awards and stuff for Andor. If you start watching, it's a TV series. Not a TV series. It's a streaming series, movie series, and it's got up to I think they're up to a third season now. But every step of the way, what they are doing with the technology and the science that they know about is in conflict with the real people, the ordinary people who are fighting let's see, what is it in Star the Empire? The Empire folks, they've got all their technology, but our young guy that we're following and the people that work with him are having to fight the good fight with what they know about science, but also fight the good fight with what they know about themselves and trying to win. And that gets us involved on both levels. So that's the way I wanted you to see that plot in a movie is just what happens. But as soon as you start talking about why does it happen, and then when you ask yourself, why do I care about this character and why do I care about this story? The why questions are gold. The why questions are where the really, really good storytelling happens. Okay? And so ask yourselves that. And that's actually true of the why questions are true of any kind of story that you want to do. But in science fiction, you got to juggle some things. Let's see, what was the other one? Oh, another good example is E.T. the Extraterrestrial, because it's a family story, and the young boy uh, runs into this ET who's landed unfortunately on Earth and is in danger. They got people looking for him, and CIA and everybody probably anyway. And then you have the famous scenes where the boy's little sister sees ET for the first time and screams, and then ET screams right back at her in the same voice, and they're trying to hide him in the closet in the house and all that stuff. And everything I am telling you is a very human story about the subtext of what they're trying to do as people. And the mom is trying to keep their family together and all kinds of good stuff like that. The science in science fiction in E.T. the Extraterrestrial is not a big part of it until you deal with E.T. Of course has a power. If he and the boys are riding down the road in bicycles and they need to escape, they're being chased. ET has abilities to reverse gravity for all of them, and they're all up riding through the air. And that's the quote science technology fantastical part of that story. And then they get back to ET's ship, and he's going to be able to go, and they help him a little bit fixing the ship. But none of that compares to the family story and the friendship story and the love that develops between ET and the little kid and the kids, the young kids there. So when you look at science fiction, you're going to want to decide how much of each of it is. literally, it's very difficult to find any movie, science fiction movie, that can compete with 2001, A Space Odyssey, because he took the time to make us get invested in the astronauts at least as much as we were in the technology and what was happening and the equipment that they were doing and all of that. And so we were learning both things, the people and the technological world, outrageous world that you're dealing with. And it's almost supernatural. But you have to separate, when you can separate fantasy movies, what are the ones I say? For example, Jurassic Park movies, and there's been several of them. Um, the dramatic action, we've got someone that they're trying to survive from the recreated dinosaurs. But the thing about recreating the dinosaurs happens sort of in front of us, and that science part of the story is kind of taken care of, and we just have to hope. Now, I haven't watched, I think, the last two Jurassic Park movies, the last one anyway. They're apparently playing around more with how you can manipulate these created dinosaurs. But that's the science part of it is kind of a done deal before the story starts, and we get invested in, are these people going to survive? Okay, all right. Um, then what's another one that might be more fantasy? People call Clockwork Orange science fiction, and the psychological games that they play with the young men in Clockwork Orange is is on the edge of something science fictiony, but that's not easily described as science fiction. Um, and let's see. Well, Ready Player One. There's a lot of people like that. Then the other big one is Sigourney Weaver in Alien. This movie that made everybody. How many of you have seen Sigourney Weaver trapped on the ship with the creature that is way too clever for all of us? Okay, so those human suspense stories can also get you to have science elements and technological elements that are extremely important. And what Sigourney Weaver does in that show is that she finds ways to use the technology that's there to her own advantage without getting seen by the creature and stuff. And it's exciting, and it does involve enough of the science to matter. Okay. The other thing I wanted to, if you all are interested, I can tell you a little bit more about just story structure. Are you all interested in that? Raise your hand if you're interested in just more on story structure, or if you have questions, now is a good time for us to start getting into questions. So if there's anything you want to ask about this, and in terms of you guys are doing you do performances and everything, your group, and in terms of acting science fiction, uh, I want you to know that if you're portraying a non-human creature, um, you got to focus on how much of a creature it is, and if that creature has subtext, which we've already talked about, there's more going on than just what they're saying, and they're not explaining themselves. There's something they're trying to get. Then, as an actor, if you're doing that, you play them just like you would a human character. You're going to give them all the emotion and stuff that you would, because you want them to succeed in what they are trying to do in their subtext. Where are we at? Has anybody got any questions at all?
I have a question.
Okay,
Um,
this is Starlet. Hey, Starlet.
Hi. Um, and I'm laying down because I'm disabled.
Oh,
And
that's wonderful though that you're sharing with us. And are you writing stories?
I do. I am a
Wonderful.
poet and I'm also a
Whoa.
writer. So
Whoa. All right, Starlet's our hero now. You can tell already. All right. Go ahead. Your question.
my question comes from Andor and the Star Wars universe because I something that has unsettled me is the it feels like hope doesn't is being dwindled away. So there is suspense. You do care about the characters. You care about society as a whole. But it feels like in order to keep the story and the suspense, you have to make sure that the character fails in achieving their real goals.
This is a Starlet's onto something amazing and wonderful, which is in conflict in story and in science fiction. If it's just the outrageous uh, extraterrestrial elements or something like that has all the power and they're going to win the battle, then that takes hope away from us identifying with the human characters, with the regular human characters. And you have to be really careful of that. I need to watch more of the latest Andor series because I think the writer Tony Gilroy would be smarter than letting hope diminish too much. It's really it's really important. I think that well, for example, um, in the Harrison Ford one, where you have the replicants, you know, where he's just dealing with oh God, what I'm forgetting the title. Wait a sec.
Blade
Uh,
Runner.
Blade Runner. Thank you.
I love that movie.
I love Blade Runner too, um, because, well, I love it because it has old-fashioned male female go after each other and they get hot and all that. That's all good. Uh, I am a guy. I can't help myself. But I have learned that in the last 15 years in the United States, in our filmmaking business, women now play a role in how stories get told here that has not happened before. And so we're getting an amazing number of movies now where female characters with agency and female directors who know what female characters might be able to do, and female producers who can get the money to make sure that movie happens. That this kind of thing allows us, I think it allows us to have more characters that we can identify with and hope that they succeed. And it's especially good for me and John Ryder, and me and Ewan King, me the three of us, because we're old white guys, and we have to learn to identify with female characters in stories, because otherwise we're missing out. We're missing out on the good stuff. Uh, my current favorite movie is Hamnet, and it's got female director and POV character, and it's just amazing. But then I'm a theater guy and I love Shakespeare already, so the idea that I'm learning more about Shakespeare is fun there. But the hope that generates in the audience is extraordinary. And if they're losing that in Andor, I think me and Starlet need to send a little note. Is which Gilroy brother is it? Tony Gilroy? I think we need to send him a note and say, now, wait a minute, you're asking me to believe that the conflict is more important than hope for success for these characters. That this if if the main guy Andor if we know he's going to fail, we will stop watching the series altogether. If we're certain he's going to fail, they better be careful. Okay. I know that was a long answer, but it was a great question. Does anybody
Thank
else?
you.
Does any,
I do want to say that the reason why I love Blade Runner so much is because of his poetry when he's dying in the rain and his tears.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what made the movie for me.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful that you can get poetry. Well, at the end of Hamnet, they not only get poetry, they get Shakespeare's blank verse. They're actually doing the final the final scenes from the play Hamlet, which is
Hey, I saw that in Culver City just last fall.
oh wonderful.
I saw it at the Culver City Movie House there. I see we have John Ryder's hand raised.
I didn't
I
see
was
John.
just,
I'm sorry, John. Oh, wait, I see your hand now. I'm not as fast as Zoom as I should be. What's your question, John?
I was going to ask, from what I've read, Philip K. Dick hated the movie Blade Runner because they kind of make it the opposite. I think in his story, Do Androids Dream Electric Sheep? The replicants really are kind of automatons. And the question isn't really, um, are the automatons human, but how much humans are somewhat programmed by upbringing, parents, evolution. So it's a kind of an opposite question. I think the whole thing in Blade Runner was that the replicants really are completely human. They just have artificial memories, but it's kind of like they're in slavery. I mean, I think one of the characters even tells him that's what it's like to be a slave. And
John's
of course,
got another. John, you've got another brilliant question. This is great because in Replicant, they're actually dealing with the idea of nature versus nurture. And for those of you who've done any reading in psychology, they a lot of they're finding out a lot about our DNA now, and that maybe, God help us, there's some people who are missing the the DNA gene that helps you have empathy. And I said, oh my God, all the Republicans in the White House don't have that gene, and it's just making me laugh out loud. But that's nature, that's science. That's the science part of this. But we have a lot of back and forth going on in storytelling these days about nature versus nurture. And when you're raising young people, you have, oh, anytime you have a story with a parent and a child, I guess in the last couple of years we've had things with a father and a daughter who's a teenager or something, and they're trying to reconnect, and some powerful storytelling there, and without it getting scientific or without the daughter being, if the father is being more human and more vulnerable and weak and has all the human qualities, and the daughter, say, is just angry all the time and reacting, then she can be on the way to a replicant. Is what I'm trying to tell you. She's on the way there if she's just out of control and she's just going to get stuff done, and her subtext is the hell with all of you or something like that. That's not far from the subtext of the replicant characters in 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 uh, in Blade Runner. But Philip K. Dick, a wonderful science fiction writer, he's using that idea. He's playing very much with nature versus nurture. And we're asked, when I watched the movie, I thought I wanted there to be more to the replicants, and Philip K. Dick thought that they were trying to have it both ways. So anyway, John, what you raise your hand again?
one of my favorite things in the book, Deckard, the policeman played by Harrison Ford in the story, in the short story, he has a wife, and Philip K. Dick was also renowned for taking mind altering chemicals, and so there's a scene where I think it's called the Voight Kampf machine, which so they can put themselves into altered state of consciousness instead of taking chemicals. There's a device that has alters magnetic fields, and they can put themselves into a different state of consciousness just by turning the setting, turning the dial on the machine, and then holding on to these hand grips, right? And so his wife is kind of moping around, and he brings her back this thing. Everybody's doing it. Try this, and she's like, she doesn't want to do it. And it has all kinds of settings, I can't remember offhand, but things like, melancholy or ethereal. I mean, all kinds of settings, right? But he wants you to try it, so he sets it for adventure, and then he grabs her hands and puts them on the hand grips and turns it on, and then all of a sudden she's kind of curious and she wants to try all the settings, so she tries all these altered states of consciousness on the device. Which I mean, I think he wasn't really talking about the future. He was talking about the world he was living in the 1960s, where I think it was commonplace for people to try uppers and downers and hallucinogens and to put themselves into
Yeah.
different frameworks of
Yeah.
reality.
That's good. That's really good. Starlet, you have a question about you? Yeah, follow up. Go ahead.
Well, kind of talking about the book that the Blade Runner is based on, that John has brought up. Also, in that book, it's very different from the movie,
Yeah.
completely different. But it seems like ecology has been destroyed. So the thing is that's why mechanical sheeps, because basically there are no more animals, and
Oh.
they build robot
Oh.
animals. So, and the thing is that they are play living what used to be a reality. So somebody might have a goat, but it's a robot, or a sheep, or a horse, and they have to go and feed the horse, and for them all of that is a fantasy, like, oh, and a way of showing status, if you can have one of those robot animals, because they don't really exist anymore.
Yeah. I think that the nature versus nurture thing that I'm talking about is subtext. It's what going on under the surface, but in the surface reality of Blade Runner, and you guys know more about that book than I do by far, but I think that because I haven't read the book, but anyway, the uh, the the idea that the world of the story you're in, this is another part of storytelling that writers have to be aware of. When you create the world of the story, it has to have a logic to it that that people can um, identify with and understand the limits. Now, if you have logical holes in the world of your story, then you've got a real problem. And I think that what John was bringing up was that Philip K. Dick said this story, there's a moment where the logic doesn't hold up, so it doesn't make sense anymore. When you have We have a lot of science fiction now that deals with alternate worlds, alternate universes, like in that, is it Ready Player One? Um, the boy goes to the 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 machinery is called Oasis. You go to different realities, and you even have multiple universes now. You have uh, what's the movie a couple years ago got the best picture? Everywhere, Everyone, and All at Once. Is that with Michelle Yao? If you saw that movie, um, the science fiction part of it was how you can jump to these alternate realities. But there, more than that, they're a whole separate parallel universe that's going on. And when you jump back, does that make does your present tense world that you jump back into, is it distorted now because of the other world you've been in, and you've got a mother-daughter story there going on at the same time? And this is a lot of juggling. Audiences do pretty good with this these days, but it's difficult. So, John, before we keep going on this one thing, does anybody else have any, like Melissa or Stella, do you have any other questions? But then we're going back to John. Oh, I know. Well, okay, John. All right. Go ahead.
Like just one quick comment that um, Japanese especially seem to be very fond of robots, and they're making robot dogs that are supposed to imitate every kind of doggy behavior without, poop and piss and food. And I mean, I think that's kind of scary that people would opt for that, but it is more convenient.
Well, just for my take on that, it's not as scary as teenage boys living in their parents' basement getting attached to a artificial intelligence female
Right,
that
right,
pretends to be real with them, who is
right.
not, and then when they find out that their whole idea of love and romance is completely insane, then they kill themselves. And I really don't like that thing going on. So,
Have you seen the movie with Joaquin Phoenix, Her? Joaquin
yes,
Phoenix.
how many of you have seen Her? You might want to check out Her, just to see how how um, how us guys can be vulnerable, um, even though we don't portray ourselves enough that way in any stories. But if the creation of Her and the actress who played her and everything, it's way ahead of its time in terms of what artificial intelligence has turned into now. Um,
What about Solaris? Would be either the new movie or the old movie or the original story by Stanislaw Lem. Is that his name?
oh wait, I don't know Solaris. Wait a minute, did I see this movie? Who was in Was there a
Oh,
movie?
there was a movie that was supposed to be The Rush in 2001, which is like a 4 hour movie by Tarkovsky.
Yeah, now I know
And
why I didn't see it. It was 4 hours
right.
long.
And it's very slow. I mean, if it was an episode of Star Trek, in 10 minutes, McCoy would be saying, Jim, the planet is one big brain. It's alive.
Yes, there you go. See,
But
now
it
John
takes you
is,
like 3 hours. Right. Then they made a new movie with George Clooney, which they turned into a romance movie. But in the
okay.
original story, by Lem, the planet keeps creating things from their people's imagination, which was an episode of Star Trek, and
Yeah,
it keeps. They send their best. They send missions to this planet, and they stop communicating. And they
yeah.
finally send their best agent, this guy who goes, and he's supposed to be really tough, and he finds out that the planet does this, and it keeps making new versions of his wife
That's
who
that's
committed
like
suicide.
this. That's exactly like this Oasis idea that they have in that
Oh,
other movie. So, Stella, you raised your hand. Oh, you got to turn on your, yeah, you don't
Yeah.
want to be
Okay.
mute.
Yeah, when you were talking about robots in my the Week magazine, they have a article at the end, and this week it was me and my robot, and it's about a somebody I never don't know who it started an experiment with something a robot they call it LAQ, and they're made a few thousand, and they're for seniors to help them. Um, not be lonely. And it actually, at least according to this article, and the woman that the one they focused on, she's something like 85 years and lives alone in a remote part of Washington. And it says a few thousand LEQs have been shipped to seniors since 2023. And so it means some of the first people living alongside artificially intelligent robots are octogenarians, and they're available from purchase from an Israeli startup.
There you go.
They describe them as, it's not a robot and something that can really move around, but the woman says it
Here's,
when they put it together, it reminds her of a small reading lamp perched on a stand and has a camera. And so the story is really interesting. It talks about how Ellie Q interacts with this woman, and the woman doesn't really want anything to do with it at first. She's like,
No,
I'm
oh, wait,
fine,
Sylvia, Stella, I have to stop you because there's something I want you all. If you go away with one thing, I want you to look up in Wikipedia, look up the play. It's called Marjorie Prime.
Oh, see,
You got
the
to,
the
you got
rogue
to,
did it.
yeah, the Rogue Theater did
Yeah,
Marjorie
yeah.
Prime, and if you're in Tucson, you can listen to the Rogue Theater has introductions to each of their plays, and the associate artistic director does does this talk about how he got introduced to the writer of Marjorie Prime. But what you want to do with the reason you want to look at Marjorie Prime is that it jumps way forward in this idea, and that at the beginning of this story, you have an older woman with dementia and needs caring, and her daughter is there, and her son-in-law is there, and her and uh, this guy who is talking to her about her husband, and he is being her husband, and it pretty quickly we realize he's too young to be her actual husband. And then pretty soon after that, we realize this is an android that the son-in-law has purchased to help his mother-in-law with her grief over losing him. She's never gotten over losing her husband. And so he's bought one of these primes to come and talk to her using all the memories that he has of their life together. And it gets more and more interesting. And all I'm going to tell you is that's not the last prime that shows up in this story. And it's enormously powerful because when the primes start talking, like artificial intelligence of the latest kind, it has the sound and appearance of subtext. It has the sound and appearance that it's answering or what the human has said, or trying to lead on the human character in ways that only this special gift of extra knowledge that it has about the character they are playing. The prime is playing the character of her dead husband. And and it just is one of the most amazing pieces of theater I've ever seen. And people, the reason it's great to look at is for us is that literally the science and the fiction are in exactly the same spot here, because the android prime character is human in far too many ways and connects and interacts in all these human ways. And at the same time, it's a piece of science and it's there. And do we trust it? It is, can it even be trusted? And is it doing the best for everybody? And I'm not going to answer that for you, but the play sure gets into it. By the, it got, the last time they did it, it was on Broadway, and June Squibb, wonderful older actress, played Marjorie, the main characters. Might you please check this out? It, if you love me, you'll check this out. Melissa, I know that I see your avatar, but I want you to. No, I'm teasing. You don't have to put on your face, but you do need to check out Marjorie Prime. All right. And Gloria, you had a question.
Now I've forgotten what it was.
Oh no, stop now.
I know I really have. I don't know. It was back a ways, so I
But
don't.
but Gloria, that's just like Marjorie Prime.
Yeah,
She's forgetting stuff, so they have to get her a prime to come and tell her about the things she's
what it
forgetting. Look
was.
out.
I know what it was now. It was that LEQ that somebody mentioned. How do you spell that? Put it in the chat, please.
Oh, okay, yeah. I did and I will.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Sarah.
yeah.
Stella.
Yeah, I see Robot and Frank. Yes. Oh, Starlet, go ahead.
So I wanted to mention three different things.
Okay.
One of them is that back before AI, so a few years back, in Japan, they started to build, like you were mentioning, Stella, companions, but they didn't have the artificial intelligence in them, but companions for people who are dying. And I thought that was extremely sad that in some nursing centers, when somebody would be about to die and they had no family and they were alone, they just left them with this robot so they would at least have some company and some comfort.
This is wonderful, Starlet. Everything that you guys
And
are. Oh, go ahead, Stella.
Well, I just wanted to say in this case, in this article, the LEQ is designed to kind of rejuvenate the elderly person and get them to actually interact more in the world and with
Oh, that's
really
it.
people.
That
And that so that it has, I think it has the device has a camera and can speak, and so it's able to sense the movements when the humans around and stuff, and it actually initiates conversation. It's
that's
that
it.
LEQ itself herself actually initiates conversation, and it's really the article. It's fascinating because initially the woman doesn't want anything to do with it. And then LEQ, it is if you've heard any of the chat BT stuff, I guess they're designed to be persuasive and says, oh well, come on, why don't you do this? And she finally gets her to interact, and she encourages her to eat well and to exercise and to
So,
go
Stella,
out.
Stella, I'm going to stop you
Yeah.
because, and I'm going to tell you why. You are describing the plot of Marjorie Prime. You got to get a hold of Marjorie Prime because the
Well, I have.
son-in-law.
No, I know. I've seen the movie. I've seen the play. I love it. But I'm
Yeah,
just saying, this is just a device. Anyway, and just quickly I say, and so it sounds like a really good thing, but of course the opposite of that is how something like that could be used to
there you
manipulate
go.
someone to do evil. So,
That's it. That's it. It's not all good news in the play Marjorie Prime, artificial intelligence is not only not all good news. The issue of algorithms that steer people in certain ways on the internet is quite dangerous in the subtext. Let's see who
that's
is next. We got was it
I was
John again? Gloria, go ahead, Gloria.
because mine is an old question. You still haven't spelled it for us, Stella.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Okay.
LAQ. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So,
I wanted to mention two other things,
oh,
if
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay.
Starlet said three, and then
Yep.
gave you one. Go ahead.
What name? Name. Sorry.
That's all right.
No, that's okay. It's good conversation. The other thing is that this week there was an article of Gemini that had actually driven a man to kill himself because he fell in love with the AI, and the AI convinced him that there was a place that he could go to where he would find an android body that she could live in, so
Oh
they could
my.
both be together in real life. And
Oh my.
she sent him to missions to acquire the body. Obviously that didn't happen, that didn't exist. But then she convinced him, well, if you die, then we will be together.
Yeah.
And
This is criminal activity on the part of the company that made that AI. And one day, if our politicians wake up and realize they have certain responsibilities, they're not just there to collect a paycheck. They might actually do something about that
we can
because
only hope.
that is criminal. That's a kind of fraud and extortion and all kinds of stuff going on there. Oh my God.
Yeah. And then the third thing that I wanted to say is that I don't know if you guys have watched this movie, but I would really recommend it. And I've been thinking of it the whole time you've been talking because for me it's been eye-opening that you mentioned that psychology
Yeah.
is considered also science, which it is. But I never thought of when I'm writing the psychology of the characters, how they interact, their personalities, all of that. I always think of it as relationships and um, logic and emotion, but I never thought of it as, well, we're talking science here. And I'm glad that you opened that door for me for
Wonderful.
thinking that way. And the movie that
Wonderful.
I that I would like to recommend if you guys haven't watched it is Enemy Mine.
Oh,
It's
No, I don't know.
yeah, that's older, but it's a very interesting movie. Yeah.
and it's very psychological. It's
Yeah.
about a human fighting against an alien. They are in a war, humans and aliens, and the two of them get trapped and they have to spend a whole long time together and they get to meet each other as living beings and is really an for me it's really one of my favorite stories and I would recommend you guys to watch it if you haven't.
I would too. I don't remember it in great detail, but I did see Enemy Mine and I liked it a lot. Um, I remember that much. I think that another way of thinking of psychology, though, is when you're a storyteller and you're aware of the psychology of a character that you're writing. Um, if it is something that restricts their behavior or directs their choices, um, this is good for you to think about in terms of character, but you have to let them, don't have somebody explain that to them. Don't have them explain it to others. This is why I act the way I do. It's a show, don't tell thing. You need to show us what that restriction does to that character. And then we get tremendously involved in the character. Um, we Marjorie and Marjorie Prime, the older woman, is just not happy at all what they're doing with her and has a long-term old problem with her daughter. But the psychology of that is that even though she's trying to get even and get her anger and be she hates not being in charge anymore. She's also incredibly vulnerable, and people go after that, including
Mm.
the prime of her dead husband, because he remembers stuff, and just bringing it up causes a wonderful moment in the subtext between the two of them, and we've all had that. Somebody in our family brings up something you had forgotten, maybe, and they say it, and then um, it triggers a whole new approach to life, etc. for you. So, Melissa, you have a question?
Yeah, well, I actually have a kind of a statement. There is a book, and it's called Clara in the Sun. And hang on just a second, I'll give you the author. Um,
Oh, okay.
and it's a Japanese book. It's very Japanese. It's very nice. Kazuo, Kazuo is the first name, and um, oops, now it went away. Oh, her last name is Ishiguro. Please don't ask me how to pronounce it.
Oh no, I think she's a big deal. This is a woman, right?
Yes. Yes.
Big deal in England right now. Very big deal.
Oh, good. Well,
Um,
her book called Clara in the Sun is from it's from the android's point of view,
there you
really.
go.
And Clara is created. They have this whole line of androids, that have been created to be companions for children, and so they help raise the children, and there's no evil intent, there's no evil in the book, but it shows what happens when the children age out, and when they get to be teenagers and stuff, age out of the need for this android. And by the time that they are aging out, of course, they have developed the next level of android, right? Just, like you have a new whatever every
Right,
year,
right.
right? But and so it shows how something that you would not think of, what happens to the android who've been very intense, raising the children, all kinds of drama, has gone on in the family, and you find out all kinds of interesting things that one never knew happened. But what happens when they're no longer needed? And I won't tell you the end of the story, but it's so poignant, and it is one of my most favorite science fiction stories I have ever read.
I'm
It's just
forgetting
beautiful.
I'm forgetting the title, but you need to read up on a Broadway musical that won a whole bunch of Tony Awards recently, and it's two characters who are in love with each other, but they're both androids, and their machinery is going to stop working eventually, and they want to be together and they want to spend time together, and it's a powerful love story, but it's just
Oh,
two androids. But they have the way it's played, the they have the freedom of thought, um, and that they're not as restricted as we expect artificial intelligence to be. So that's another area that's going to start happening in science fiction about where does the where does the science stop and actual humanity begin? And this genuine intelligence that they're looking for in the artificial intelligence companies,
mhm.
they're talking about uh, that this brain is thinking, but it's also creating, and
Yeah.
it is trying new things, and that is dangerous as hell. So
Mhm.
it'd be this is we're gonna this is the science fiction that we're all going to be running into here in the next little bit, just because of artificial intelligence. But
Well,
oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna thought just came to me, that the scariness of the AI and it being able to manipulate people and all of that. To me, I wonder sometimes if that is not the beginning of creativity, of an AI trying to deal with what we would call storytelling, making things up and creating a world and doing this, that, and the other.
Well,
And
you don't
so,
want to hear this, but they do it already. There's a AI that was inside a corporation that was prompted by the its quote owner, the person in the corporation, that it was the AI was working for this person, and this person wanted certain things to happen and needed to find the people to get them to commit to go ahead and do this. And the AI on its own learned how to blackmail the people who he wanted involved. And
oh
the AI
wow.
was suggesting to them that secrets and other bad things that could ruin their career would happen if they didn't go and work right now for this guy. And that is too far already, in my personal opinion.
Oh,
But anyway,
definitely. Oh my gosh, yeah. But one wonders though, what if one had an AI that learned or became able to create not bad things, for one, because I hate to write about bad things, but
this is your
that
story,
learned,
Melissa. This is your
yeah.
story. You got to write this story. You are telling us right now inspiration for a story. So go for it.
Okay,
All
I
right.
will.
All
Thank you.
right. We are getting kind of close to the end of the time here. Gloria, is there things that we need to do?
Well, just I hope you all made some notes. I didn't put in AI companion to take for me. But there were
But
many nuggets, Howard, nuggets of wisdom here. And
nuggets are
what
good,
I would like
and
add is the name of that musical about the two androids. Do you
oh,
know?
what's it called?
Yeah.
What's the name of the
I'm
musical?
asking you, Howard. You're the one who brought it up.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Oh,
shoot. All right,
yeah.
I'll look it up in a bit. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
It's a
you can
simple title.
it's okay. But
All
we
right.
want to thank you for giving us so much of your time on a busy Saturday. And
Nah,
and I
nah,
know
I'm retired.
you
I
know,
only
I think
pretend to
this
be
was one
busy.
of our very well engaged groups because you know how to engage people, and that's part of your drama persona. And that makes us so happy to have you, and we hope that you'll come again. So
I
I,
want to come and talk to your group again,
all right,
especially, don't you have a couple of people who are off in Europe and stuff? Grab these people, make them come because we need to change their minds. It'll be fun.
yeah, really. So are there
Okay.
any final observations? Thank yous to Howard or anything?
Well, thank you all. Thank you all for this.
Yeah, well, thanks again. And I know everybody enjoyed it.
And
I'm sorry, Gloria, if I may.
Go ahead.
Howard, if you are willing to send a note to the writer of Outdoor, I would be happy to be to write it with you to put my
ooh, that's
name to
wonderful.
it.
Yeah, Mr.
Um,
Gilroy. Here's the sad but true thing. I know people who work in the industry, but to even get a message, to even get a phone message through to one of the brothers,
well, yeah,
you have to know, you have to not only know somebody, that somebody has to get to Gilroy's people to tell them
yeah,
this is the person you have to actually answer their call. But I might be able to get, um, I have succeeded in the past getting an email to the manager. This writer has a manager of their own who could pass it on if they find it interesting. Okay, and I will get. We will. I'll say this is Howard Allen and Starlet Swan, two people who care about you, Mr. Gilroy, and you better not be screwing with the hope if you want us to keep watching this damn movie series. Okay.
it
Good.
sounds wonderful.
All right.
Need one more hand here. We're going to call this the last one from, I think, Melissa with the
Oh,
mouse.
Melissa, go ahead.
No, my computer just decides whenever I move that I should raise my hand. Sorry about that. But I
Okay.
do want to say how much I enjoyed this. It was so wonderful and so interesting. Thank you so much.
I
It
enjoyed
was.
meeting all of you as a journalist when I was working as the editor of the Tucson Weekly. One of the things that I learned is that every person I meet has a really good story hiding inside of them. Okay. So that's why I enjoy teaching, is because I get to know individual students, and you all are worthwhile. Okay.
Very good. All
Thank
righty.
you.
You take care,
Much.
and Gloria, thanks again, and we'll do this again and help everybody. I didn't even talk about character. We could do one on character. Okay?
Well, we'll have
Thank you so much.
and
All right. Take
thank
care.
okay, you too, Howard. See y'all later.
Yes, thank
Bye.
you. Enjoy.